Hello, welcome to the first episode of my review web series here. I've seen everyone do it online, and something that I've really been curious about doing. And what better movie to start with than Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice? Um, I've been waiting 3 years for this movie, as every fan has, who's been waiting, getting updates, pictures, photos, first footage, everything you can think of, just anticipation building. Okay. Um, uh, Going into this, I'm a huge Batman fan from the get go. Grew up with Batman. He's holds a special place with superheroes. To me, he is the best top dog because he doesn't have superpowers, never needed them. Way more grounded, way more real compared to the other, still fine superheroes, but Batman is the best in my opinion. So going into that, I was really, at first, I will admit, I was not fond of the casting of Ben Affleck as Batman. Uh, I would say Ben Affleck, the Boston Batman, Alfred, where's my Samuel Adams type thing. And over time, seeing the pictures of him in the suit and him as just as Bruce Wayne as General sold me. The first photos I saw of him. Since then, I was on board. He's the first actor ever to look like Bruce Wayne. Okay, Christian Bale, no doubt, gave great performances throughout the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, that's a given. But the Ben Affleck's the first to portray Bruce Wayne's look, jawline, attitude, everything in this movie. So let's jump right in. First off, I'm going to go ahead and say it. There are times that the movie does feel underdeveloped, and I will admit that. But this is a very, very smart movie. Very, very smart movie. And that's not getting the credit it deserves for how intelligent the script really is. It's very, very fast paced. So the consensus, you read online, user reviews, critic reviews, it's real choppy edited. It doesn't make any sense. It's just thrown together. I can see why people think that, but if you really know the source material and you really watch the movie, I mean, I had to see it a second time to really grasp the plot of this movie. Very well done. Very well done. The second time you see it, you can actually take each scene as it comes and you understand what this scene means later on because a lot of it ties together. And it takes a while for it to tie together. So that it seems like you'll see a scene at the beginning of the movie that doesn't make sense, but at the end comes together. Okay, for instance, Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor, great performance. I understand people were either going to love him or hate him as Lex Luthor, but we've seen Gene Hackman do his performance. We've seen Kevin Spacey try to emulate that and actually get criticized for trying to act like Gene Hackman, which I thought Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns did a great job. I mean, he's a good actor in general. Jesse Eisenberg, I knew what kind of character he was going to play, and it was exactly my what I expected. Um, Very, very high energy, very intelligent, but uses that intelligence uh, to get what he wants, and doesn't like when he doesn't get what he wants. And the reason I want to jump in with him first is there are scenes in the movie that are very overlooked. For instance, uh, the scene where he's with Senator Finch in his father's old room, and he points out the painting and how it should be turned upside down because devils don't come from beneath us; they come from the sky. Okay. He mentions that this photo should be turned upside down because of that reason. And at the end of the movie, you see a shot where that painting is actually turned upside down, and the demon coming down upon humanity. The reason I point that out because the end scene where Lex is confronted by Batman in prison, he Lex goes on to say that the bell has already been rung, and he has heard it, and he's coming, and he's hungry. Uh, if you really know anything about the comics, you know that Darkseid is the Justice League big DC villain that is basically Thanos of the Marvel universe. He is the all-powerful, godlike figure. And when I saw this scene the second time, I noticed the fact when he says he's coming, everyone's talking about how Lex Luthor's motivation. What's his motive? Why is he doing all these things? What's the point of all of it? And then this doesn't explain it. I don't think they were supposed to. I think that's the point. I don't think they were supposed to dive into it. He's a villain who's taking action. Okay, and these superheroes, Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, have to act, and they don't get an explanation either. Okay, I mean, even at the end when Ben Affleck says, "I just have a feeling," I mean, he's not talking about he doesn't know what's going to happen, but he can expect more to come. And when Lex says he's coming, it basically gives you the idea of Lex is he's not the one who cooked up this idea. You know, why is he following meta humans? You know, why is he doing that research? Why is he trying to kill Superman? Um, now that the god of Earth is dead, the bell is rung, and he's heard it. I believe Dark, it's going to explain it as this universe progresses. Lex Luthor's motivations and his backstory will be explained. That's what I believe. Okay, I believe that he has been approached by either Darkseid or some other being, is told to do this because Lex Luthor is a pawn. I believe following orders from something greater. It's all for a purpose. Uh, he also goes on. I mean, even on the roof at LexCorp Tower, when he's talking to Superman, he tells partly his motives about how he hates gods when the fist of his father. That God can't be all powerful and be all good. He's got to choose one or the other. Okay, you can tell he's a scientific, and most people who are scientific reasoning aren't in religion. They don't believe into that, and I think that Lex has a deep dark hatred for a Jesus or God figure in general because of what he went through, with his father. It doesn't explain it too much. I think it will for sure, but he just that's his motivation is the hatred for gods. But at the same time, when he talks about, uh, he's coming, the bell is rung. Darkseid is on the way because Batman's dead. He doesn't see a threat anymore. Um, that's what I believe his motivations were. So Lex Luthor did a great job. Jesse Eisenberg, I thought his performance was good. I can't wait to see where they go with it, how much they explain. Like I said, I don't believe we were supposed to know. I believe we're supposed to take his actions just as the superheroes are. Like, what's going on? Like, why has he got this villainous plan? And the whole time, everything, the letters sent to Batman, the photos sent to Clark Kent of the Bat, it's all him. It's just sneaky. He's been for years doing it, and it's going to explain more, I think. Let's get on to Henry Cavill as Superman. I'm one of those people who I understand why people don't like Man of Steel. It's not traditional Superman movie. It's Zack Snyder's really taken a Greek mythology, Greek tragedy towards Superman, and critics are asking, does Zack Snyder hate Superman? I think actually the 100% the opposite way. I think he loves Superman so much that he builds this idea around him that I mean, honestly, in our day and time, if a figure like Superman was here, all of that controversy would be 100% legitimate. People would be losing their minds, rioting. There would be people just like Jesus in general, or God figures in general. You have split wars caused because of them. Do we trust him? Do we not? The world we live in, it would be that way, especially in the technology age that you're going to get on social media and capture Superman doing something. It's going to be taken completely out of context, and you're going to have hatred for him because you aren't given the right information. A headline reads Superman kills or destroys someone, but it doesn't talk about him saving something. That would be a reality. It would skip over that just to get the headlines, just to get that hatred and views and ratings and stuff like that. I think Zack Snyder really cares for Superman. He's taken a different approach. We've seen Christopher Reeves, nothing against him. That's great, very campy, very fun. We've seen it. They tried to do it in Superman Returns, and no one liked that movie. I personally like Superman Returns. I was kind of upset, he didn't punch anybody, but I don't think it's a bad movie. For what it is, I think it's good. It's just weird how they did a sequel to the second one and just ignored the third and fourth one. But they did that movie, and no one liked it. And especially Henry Cavill. He is Superman. That guy looks like he is cut out of a comic book and is Superman. I mean, that guy could probably play Archer in a live action Archer movie. If you've ever seen Man from Uncle, I mean, that's literally, he looks like Archer. That guy is a comic book character, and he's a great actor. Like, intensity. I mean, every scene, whether he's being hated on by the world, you can see that struggle of how he doesn't know how to take it. Even the vision of him seeing his dad on top of the mountains, I think that's one of the parts I really like that in the movie. I like that scene. I think it was placed in the wrong part of the movie. That's one of it that's kind of underdeveloped. It doesn't really explain it as a dream sequence, but it's a good scene because the story, his father tells him about saving the farm and stopping the flood, but the repercussions of that and killed the horses in the other farm, down the road. That's the whole point of the whole movie of Superman. That one story, it's beautifully told. While he was eating my hero cake, their horses were dying. That's the whole point of Zack Snyder's films is being a superhero is good. It's great. But what makes someone a hero is no matter all the negative things said about you is to keep going and strive on. Even in the Dark Knight trilogy, he's not what we need right now. He's a Dark Knight, a silent protector. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about being able to be that, rise above that hatred and just be good no matter what anyone says about you. That's what a hero is rising above that. Um, even at the end of the movie, when everyone's praising Superman, got their lighters and everything out, that's exactly how humans are. We hate him. He dies and saves us. All of a sudden, wow, it hits us. He really wasn't bad. It's almost hypocritical of us as the human race to do that, and that's the beauty of it because people only see what they want to see, and they're it's just it's so well told. But anyways, his performance is very, very good in this movie, just as in Man of Steel. Man of Steel, it's a Greek tragedy. I mean, he gets here. It's not a happy story. In general, this movie isn't a happy movie, and I like that. I understand you're using something like DC Comics Justice League. It's a big product that you're selling, and I understand why people want that happy, go lucky, and that's probably in general the way it should be. But I appreciate this movie for what it is, that darkness and not really happy at all. Because how could these guys be? There's a reason they're fighting their demons. So Henry Cavill, great job the whole movie, especially with Lois Lane. You can tell that connection between him and Amy Adams for sure. Finally, I want to get into Ben Affleck as Batman. Like I said previously, I was not on board, but as soon as I saw those photos of him in the bat suit, sold. First of all, best bat suit ever, like ever. Not the Iron Man one, if they want to call it the Iron Man one, even though this comic was written, The Dark Knight Returns, years ago. But his normal bat suit is just phenomenal. What every Batman fan's been wanting to see. I appreciate the Chris Nolan versions, but I was never a fan of the armor look. It just doesn't look menacing. It doesn't look, terrifying. This one, the skin gray suit with the black, oh man, that is the cartoon animated series all the way. What we grew up wanting to see. And not only that, Ben Affleck is massive. Like he dedicated himself to this role. You can tell. The reason I believe I can say this, I think he is the best Batman yet on screen. He just, he doesn't have enough to, Christian Bale has 3 movies. He has a whole trilogy behind him. Ben Affleck has to share the screen with not only Superman, but Wonder Woman and all these people. But the time he's on screen, I can still say that he's the best Batman. And the reason that is because he's the best Bruce Wayne we've ever seen. Okay, Batman's cool no matter what. That's obvious. Everyone loves Batman. He's cool. He's in the shadows. That's great. But Bruce Wayne, Christian Bale gave it everything he had, but his was just always about wanting to not be Batman. He just never wanted to be Batman. He's always trying to get out of that and move on, which is great. It's kind of whiny, in my opinion. Christian Bale did great, but Ben Affleck brings an intensity to Bruce Wayne. Very, very suave, very, very carries himself like a bachelor would. When he's out and he's first of all when he's talking to Henry Cavill, Clark Kent at Lex's philanthropy event gathering, and he says, "The Daily Planet. Do I own that one or is it the other one?" That whole persona he has to put on to be Bruce Wayne, to act smarmy and rich, and so people don't think he's Batman. But he's the best one. He's the only one who's ever looked like Bruce Wayne. I mean, when you see him in the movie and he's got that jawline and his hair, I mean, he is Bruce Wayne in this movie. and he brings such an intensity. Even the scene in the trailer where he says, if there's even a 1% chance, we have to take it as an absolute certainty. I mean, that is what Batman's all about in this whole movie. He has these. Yeah, he's being manipulated by Lex Luthor, granted, but he fears not only for himself but this all of humanity, man. He and for a man to rise up and fight a god knowing that he might die, he's more than likely will. That's what makes this Batman really good. Very very interesting. Also, touch base with Batman. Another thing is the fighting. Okay, being a huge fan of the Arkham video games, I own all of them. I've played all of them. I've beat all of them. I've played the storylines multiple times. I have told my friends, if you like a campaign video game, these are the best ones ever. Storyline's good, but the fighting, that's what Arkham, not only the glide, but the fighting style was what really drew people in on those video games. Okay, this really takes a lot of notes from that. There's not a whole lot of Batman fighting. The warehouse scene you see in the final trailer, that's probably his biggest fight scene. There's a lot more to it than just in the trailer. But the way he is brutal with it, it's what we need. The Christian Bale fighting was always so awkward, and he'd hit someone, and I'd like, that really knocked him out. That didn't look like it had any brutality or force with it at all. Not really at all. But the way you can tell he hit someone, that person is out. He is so much brute force, and not only that, we finally get to see him when he's fighting use batarangs, use his grappling to pull an enemy towards him and then hit him back. Um, you know, he uses his gadgets while fighting. Even when he comes up through the floor and he shoots those things, it attaches to all the guns, and then it explodes all the guns so they can't use them, and it knocks the enemies out. I mean, it's so Batman. Batman is all about his gadgets because, yeah, he can have brute force, he can be quick, but at the same time, he's always got a ton of enemies around him. So while he's doing that, he throws those, blows up the guns, he's attacking other ones. And while those people are disoriented, he's moving around, and no people, they don't have a chance. Um, uh, Even one part, you see in the trailer, he throws that guy into the wall. In the movie, that guy is already knocked out. He just picks him up and throws him against the wall just to as a point, like, dude, stop hitting me. Uh, so smooth, and in Batman, spoiler alert, a little late for that, but Batman does kill people in this movie. Some of it's in a dream sequence. Granted, he pulls out his gun, he starts blowing people away, handgun, machine gun. He does snap a neck even at one point, and it is a dream sequence. Granted, in the future when not killing people is just not an option anymore. In that future, you can see. Um, I'm gonna come back to this dream sequence here in a second. Uh, he even when he's flying the Batwing, blowing cars up, killing people, not thinking twice about it. Even he's in the Batmobile, he does the same thing, blows people up, runs them over. This Batman just does not care. Been in Gotham 20 years. Even says, been in Gotham 20 years. How many good guys are left? How many stayed that way? He is really teetering on that idea, and it's going to upset a lot of people. And is a huge Batman fan. I understand why. 100%, I understand. That is Batman's rule. As the Joker said in Dark Knight, you're going to break your one rule. That is what makes Batman different from the criminals. This Batman may have been that way at some point, but now is just a totally different person, and you can tell he's terrified by Superman in general, and he's going to do everything he can, whether it's taking lives. And the movie does point out that the people he's killing are not good people. They're bad people. They kidnap Martha Kent. They hurt her really bad, and they're shooting at him, and he's just got to stop them. I mean, how are you going to stop them without, they have Gatling guns, and he's in the Batmobile. You're going to have to blow him up. Even in the Arkham Knight game, it'll blow them up. The cars will blow up, but they somehow live. That's how they do it, so Batman doesn't kill. In real life, they would die, and that's what this movie's about. He doesn't go out and just snap necks. He's being attacked by machine guns and cars, and he has to shoot, and they blow up. That's just the way it goes. Batmobile is very cool. Doesn't have too much of a cameo, but what it was, it doesn't need to be. We've seen Batmobile before. We've seen the Tumbler destroy everything. This is a very powerful Batmobile, I would say, for its size. It can run through anything. Uses his grapple with the Batmobile, pulls cars and stuff. For the scene it's in, it's pretty cool. Okay, But Ben Affleck, two thumbs way up, man. I mean, you're gonna shock a lot of people. I'm really looking forward to his solo movie. He's gonna be directing, and we've all seen that Ben Affleck can direct movies. I mean, he knows how to make tension, he knows how to build a story, and he knows how to really engross the audience in what he's telling. I mean, Argo, honestly, in my opinion, is a very formalic movie. Okay, very formalic, but the way he builds each scene and the tension right there, you're just on the edge of your seat. Same with The Town. The Town's a very formalic movie, but he makes the character stand out. The story formalic may it be, it's very very strong, and you actually feel the emotion behind his character falling in love with and wanting to get out of that life. And I think when he makes his Batman movie, it probably won't be so slow motion, dark Greek tragedy as Zack Snyder portrays in this movie. It'll be more thriller, more action thriller kind of movie, and I think Ben Affleck's gonna do a great job. I'm excited to see it. I can't wait to see his more of him as Batman. Like, I wanted more of him just because he's the standout performance of the movie. Especially if you're a Batman fan, you're gonna love him. Okay. What I want to go back to, like I said, the dream sequence. Okay, there's a few of them actually. There's one where Batman, he's Bruce Wayne's walking and he sees his mother and his father's gravestones, and then all of a sudden it starts to bleed black, and then comes through the wall. An actual bat grabs him. Obviously, he's still fighting that demon of Batman taking over Bruce Wayne. He's becoming more of that evil, menacing Batman and trying to fight that. Very, very small dream sequence there, but the big one is the dark side premonition dream sequence. He obviously Ben falls asleep. Bruce falls asleep, and it starts with him, walking out, and it shows, as you've seen the photos, I'm sure, of the dark side emblem on, like, just burned into the ground. But Batman, he's basically got a following, and he's fighting the Superman soldiers that you see that was always discussed about before we found out it was a dream sequence. And he says, did you get it? And he's talking about the kryptonite. Apparently, there's still kryptonite going on, and it's very, very rare. And he finally gets a hold of it. But it turns out his soldiers turn on him. Okay, and that's when he first pulls out a gun and starts shooting people, which is very, very weird to see if you're a Batman fan at all. He hops out, starts fighting. Uh, I do admit that fight sequence is a little slower, but it's still good. I mean, the reason it's good is because it circles around, it panoramic around him as he's fighting and coming from all angles. Very, very well done. I mean, Batman, that's what he's about. His whole fighting style is taking on multiple enemies at one time. Then you see, I need to do more research on what they're called, the things that fly. I know they're dark sides, like henchmen, you want to call them. And they come down and start helping Superman. Finally knock Bruce Wayne out, Batman out. He wakes up chained. Superman comes down, has the soldiers kneel, as we saw in the trailer, and that was really discussed. Superman walks up, blows both of his partners away with his laser vision. His eyes just big scene here. Okay, this is really foreshadowing a lot. If you know anything about the comics, what Superman says to Batman in the scene is, "You took her from me, and she was all I had." What he's talking about is Lois. In the comics, Superman turns evil when Lois Lane is murdered. Okay, he basically just says enough is enough. Humans are just no good, and why would I try to save this world when it took the only thing that I really cared about away, and all I've done is good things. But he says it to Batman. You took her away from me. So it's interesting to wonder, when did Batman kill Lois? If that's what he's implying, if he's the one that really ended her life. Um, uh, you know, then Superman proceeds to kill Batman. Bruce wakes up, and this is the second part of that dream sequence. He's not quite awake, and you see someone. It doesn't explain who it is, and it's not Flash because it's not Ezra Miller. It's some other character I need to do the research on. I don't know who it is. Lightning flashing everywhere, and he says, "You were right about him, about Superman." And he says, "It's Lois Lane. Lois is the key." Okay, this is basically saying Lois is the key to why this future is what it is. Why Superman is evil. Lois is the key. Doesn't explain any more than that. Okay, then Bruce wakes up, and then finally everything's unencrypted, and it moves on. A lot of people are going, "What was that?" It's going to explain it. It's going to explain it. It's so brilliantly done. This is what I was talking about. A smart script. It has this scene in a future movie. Okay, they're going to send this person back in time to Bruce. Okay, and he's going to tell him Lois is the key, and it's gonna fit perfectly, and people are finally going to realize that's what that is. Okay, it's setting up so many scenes for the future. That's a future scene in some movie unknown that they're going to send him back to that point in time in Batman versus Superman when this was occurring. Great, smart, very, very smart to build your universe like that, because you got to understand, DC, they're doing it backwards. They're making their big movie and then their solo movies. So what this is doing is a lot of scenes that are unexplained, like Lex's motives, they're happening. All this stuff's happening. It's going to explain it as the universe progresses. The universe has just started being built. I mean, there's just not enough time in a movie to explain these characters and explain, but there will be. Okay, the Avengers had the advantage of having everyone's character being built already. You know who they are, you know where they come from, where they've been, what they've seen, and now they're here together, and you know why. It's just they had that way, and DC took a bold move to do it backwards, and people got it. When you watch this movie, you have to remember that. You have to remember there's so much of this universe, so much of the story that hasn't been told, unlike Marvel, where it was already been told. It already led up to those events in the Avengers. This is a lot of things are happening, okay, unexplained. That will be. It's going to progress. It's going to get better. Um, let's go back to the movie's plot about it being very choppy, very unedited. I mean, the movie opens with another scene of Bruce Wayne's parents being killed. Okay, um, I wasn't really about it. I was like, again. The only reason that I'm okay with it after seeing the end of it was when Bruce's father at the end says Martha. Um, I mean, that's when he Batman's on top of Superman, ready to stab him with the kryptonite, and Superman says, "You're gonna let him kill Martha." That's Superman's mother's name, and Batman, it hits him. He saw his mother's, the life go out of her eyes, saw her head, she gets shot in the head in front of him as a kid, and then his dad says Martha. That's the last thing he heard his father say to his mother who just died, and his father just died, and now he's alone. And then this alien who's not a man, who's not brave, says Martha, and he goes, "Why? What made you say that name? Why is that name? What did you say that for?" And then obviously Lois says that it's his mother's name, and Batman is so emotionally dumbfounded. He just can't even do it. He doesn't know what to think. He's like, what? And then everyone's like, well, now they're just best friends. That doesn't make sense. It does make sense, because that's what the whole reason Bruce Wayne is Batman is because of that event. Because of that event. So, the whole time he's killing people, he wants to kill Superman. He is just a dark, gritty Batman. That scene brings him back to, you know, who he was, why he's even doing this, what made him Batman. Okay, and that hits home with him. Okay? No matter who you are, you see your mother get shot in front of you, and then it's very powerful, and it ties together so well. And it's the only reason I like that scene is because it makes it really full circle. Okay, then it jumps into the uh, uh, the desert scene with Lois. Okay, doesn't explain why, who she's doing, who she's interviewing, anything. Then Superman drops in. First of all, these contract killers start blowing people away, and then they drive off, and then Superman shows up, and then he just takes this guy out, like before he can even pull the trigger, and then it jumps to a court scene. This is what I'm talking about when people talk about it's really edited bad, and it's choppy, and people are going, wait, what? How am I supposed to feel? I got nothing invested into this. If you listen, you're not just watching scenes about action. You listen to the dialogue. Jumps to the court scene of this African lady explaining she heard the sound in the sky, and he came down, and then her parents were killed because of this action. Okay, that's the whole point. Is yeah, this is cool. Superman just did this awesome thing. Boom, cut right to this lady who just lost her entire family because Superman was being Superman, saving Lois, saving lives, and beating the bad guy, just like his father's story and his dream and Superman's vision. He stopped the flood, but what were the repercussions of that flood? That's the whole point of Superman in Zack Snyder's eyes is, you know, he can do all these great things, but there's always going to be consequences. Okay, that whole scene, this whole movie is supposed to make you emotionally question what a superhero is. He saves Lois, awesome scene. Cut to a dramatic court scene where this lady's lost her family. That's a great, great, emotional juxtaposition. It just changes right then. And people want to say that's stupid or it's edited bad. You don't invest anything. If you think about it, you will emotionally connect to that. The way it's put. Lois's story, to me, that's probably the biggest underdeveloped part, or just kind of thrown in there, so she'll be in the movie. Nothing's bad about it. She's trying to figure out who's behind the desert scene, which is causing Superman to, he was already being questioned for Metropolis, but this was that catalyst that pushed it over the edge. He's got to answer for this. He went and saved Lois, one woman, and there's so many casualties. He's got to answer for it. They let it slide, I guess, with Metropolis because he saved the world. He's still under fire, but this is, in our day and time, one thing will push people over the edge and say, all right, we've had enough. We need answers. And that would be it. That whole, foreign policy, everything. Who is he fighting for? Is he for the U.S.? Is he not? And then even this, his montage scenes where he's saving the USSR spaceship that explodes, or he goes to Mexico City in the Day of the Dead, and that scene's really really good because all it shows is him flying down with the girl. It doesn't show him flying in, looking in the fire or anything. It shows him save her, just bring her down, and then everyone touching, just to want to touch him, because they think he's a healer, just like Jesus was. They just wanted to touch him, and he lets them. He's not like, get off me, stop touching me. He lets him because he's, like his mom said, be whatever they want you to be, and he's doing that. I mean, that shows the goodness, like the good inside Superman. That's the whole point. I just can't believe people are hating on this movie for the plot being choppy. I get some parts. Like I said, she'll meet with that commander from Man of Steel, randomly kind of. Doesn't really tell how she got there, why she's there. That's okay though. It's just supposed to be like a subplot. Just she is investigating. She's a journalist. That's what her job is, and she's still investigating. She can't fly. She can't fight crime, but she can figure this out. She's at least doing something. Trying to be a helpful. Just trying to be helpful. For Clark's sake. Okay. I'm just trying to think. This movie. It's very very fast. Okay. That's why I recommend before you hate it or before you say you don't, it's not for you, see it twice and watch each scene, because like the desert scene, it'll cut, and then the whole movie, even like Batman's Bruce Wayne, he's investigating the white Portuguese. The first time I saw it, I wasn't focusing on what, I was just like, when's he gonna fight Batman? When's he gonna fight Superman? When's it gonna happen? Batman's doing his own separate thing. Everyone's investigating their own, and it's bringing them together. He's investigating to the white Portuguese. He's bringing a dirty bomb, but really, Batman knows that Lex Luthor, they're bringing kryptonite, and he's done the research. He's been lying to Alfred about it, trying to keep it under wraps and trying to get a hold of it. Okay, but he's tracking the Russian, the guy who was at the desert scene, in that brawl scene there. Stuff like that. I get why underdeveloped. It doesn't really tell why Bruce is there, how he got there, but don't think of that. Think of he's being a detective. He's there and he's just downloading the file. Like just get over it. Okay. A lot of people also are saying the Justice League cameos were real lazy, and they're just cheap and weren't done very well. I don't, DC and Christopher Nolan especially has said, he thinks scenes at the end of movies are amateur. When the credits roll, the film's over. It's done. A film is supposed to be from the beginning to the end credits, and you're done. That's the experience. It's over. I think Zack Snyder, especially as Christopher Nolan as an executive producer, is taking that into account and follows that as well. I don't think it was lazy at all. I think it was done um, smart because Bruce finds it, clicks on Wonder Woman. It doesn't show him click on the other ones. You know he's looked at them. Okay, and he looks at Wonder Woman's photo and realizes like, whoa. Okay, speaking of that photo, it shows her in 1918 in Belgium. The Wonder Woman movie is set during that time, World War One. It's already been confirmed. In the photo, Chris Pine's in the photo, and he's in the Wonder Woman movie. It doesn't explain that photo. No one knows what that is, but it will be explained. That's a perfect example of this universe is going to progress and explain more things to make Batman versus Superman make way more sense. It's supposed to be like, what's going on? What's going to happen? That's what makes you go see the next movies to find out what's going on, what's happened. This movie, it's a lot of emotions. Most of them dark and sad, if you want to say. There's some cool, funny moments. Lex Luthor's pretty funny. He has some good ones. Lawrence Fishburne is great. Is Perry Perry White? I mean, he's real good, funny. You know, best line of him is breaking news, crime wave in Gotham. Other breaking news, water, wet. Like he's funny. That's the comic relief. Lex is still funny too. Um, I think overall, on a scale from 1 to 10, that's how I'm going to do my ratings. I give it a strong 8 or 9 for sure. Um, I understand there's some issues with it. There are. That's fine. Age of Ultron is a terrible movie. I'm not a big Marvel universe fan. I like Iron Man 1. That was a good movie. It was fun for what it was at the time. Marvel movies to me are all the same movies over and over and over and over again. Hate me if you want, I get it. I still think they are good movies for what they are. They're light, humor, fun, action blockbusters for the summer, okay? But they don't, like I liked Ant Man, but I couldn't tell you anything about Ant Man. It's just really formalic. There's the same formula Marvel uses over and over, and you can tell people are just getting tired of it. Already Phase 3 is coming up, and Civil War, they have to pretty much follow Batman versus Superman to get people interested in it. And that is a comic, granted, I know that for sure, but were they planning that before Batman versus Superman? Who knows? I doubt it. I think Zack Snyder is taking a different approach. It's not going to be for everyone. It won't be for everyone, especially young kids. It's a really complicated story, very, very emotional, different viewpoints of these characters. But I think if you are a fan of film and cinema in general, you're going to appreciate what Zack Snyder did. I mean, he had a tall order to fill. It wasn't just him. Warner Brothers wants to build a universe, and they said make this movie and make it to where it leads up to Justice League. I think he did that fantastic. I think he did a fantastic job of what Justice League's going to be. I don't think the cameos were lazy. I think they did them really well. Even in the Cyborg cameo, when it shows the cube, it starts to formulate and then attach to him. What is that? Who knows what that is? That's the whole point. It's going to explain that in the Cyborg movie. We'll find out what that scene really is. I think Jason Momoa will be a good Aquaman. I think he's probably perfect for the role. Ezra Miller, the Flash. As long as the Flash is on screen, I don't care. I think that'll be cool either way. It'll be more realistic take. Gal Gadot was, really really good. She's also kind of her fight scenes at the end were great. Okay, I think her character is one of the more underdeveloped. Not in the fact that it. I don't want to get deep into her, into her, intentions or whatever. That's just not. It's not her movie. It's just a quick, a cameo at the end. She helps them. That's great. For that, she was good. I've never really had an issue with her casting. She looked good in the costume. And after Heath Ledger, I can't ever say someone's going to be terrible till I see it because he blew me away, obviously. She was really good. I just mean her as Diana. Um, she's there to get the photo at Lex's benefit. That makes sense. The other one, when she's at the museum, that's one scene. Like, how did Bruce and her? How did he know she was going to be there? Why is she even there? Doesn't really explain that scene. That's one I feel like I understand, kind of underdeveloped, thrown in there, but it doesn't ruin anything. It's a good scene. No, I don't think you've ever known a woman like me. It's a good scene. It's well done for what it was. It doesn't really explain too much, but I liked it. It made me kind of like cat and mouse between her and Bruce. Okay. But she was good, and she's going to be good. When she's fighting, her intensity, she brings that Wonder Woman, attitude. Like she sells it fine. You believe it. She's Wonder Woman. Like, good job for Gal Gadot. She does have some accent, but at the same time, Wonder Woman isn't from America. She's not going to have a country or a regular American accent. She's from another planet, another species. So who she might have an accent, but it's not distracting. It's done very very well, and her action scenes are good. And she does help the Batman and Superman beat Doomsday. Doomsday was, people want to say he was just thrown in there and it was a waste. I don't think so at all. I mean, Lex is, he's so filled with hatred for Superman. And he's got some goal to do. This is a lot longer than I anticipated it to be, but all in all, Batman vs Superman is an epic movie experience. If you are a fan of Batman and Superman, go see the movie. You got to see the movie. 29% on Rotten Tomatoes is ridiculous. This movie is not near that bad. Okay, I like Rotten Tomatoes. I have the Flickster app. I read reviews all the time. Depending on the movie, I will definitely listen to critics. If it's a comedy, probably not. I'm not going to listen to critics because We're the Millers was hilarious, and that got like a 44 or something like that, which is they just want to hate on comedies. But this movie at 29%, that's just them hating it to hate it. They're just Marvel. Age of Ultron, what that was in the 70s, 80s, and that movie sucked. Like, it was not a good movie. Talk about disjointed and plot holes and or whatever, and under development. Like the Ragnarok scene when he's in the water Thor, that doesn't even make sense in the movie. The fact that Jarvis just becomes Vision, like, okay, I guess we're just supposed to believe that. Or the fact that I know even in the comics, Tony is the one who created Ultron, but just like it just happens, like I mean, I like Josh Whedon. I think he even quit because he was like, I can't do this. But to me, I've only seen Age of Ultron once. I don't want to see it again. I didn't like it. Very formalic and very talk about who knows what that movie was about. I mean, even Andy Serkis's character was just like, okay, I guess you're in here. But everyone seemed to love that movie so much. That's what I don't understand. But 29% is absolutely ridiculous for the critics. It's just they just want to hate it to hate it. They didn't sit down. They didn't know the source material. I don't think at all. I think they're just looking for another Christopher Reeves movie that's camp. We don't want that. We've seen that. They didn't really listen to the plot. They didn't try to understand the story or the vision Zack Snyder had. It's just unfair, I think. But all in all, go see Batman vs Superman. I'm very excited to see what they do. I do hope, Justice League. They've already said it's not going to be as dark. That's a good thing. Okay, but I appreciate this movie. It's a very very cool experience, and see it more than once. Okay, at least twice before you say you hate it or don't want to ever see it again, or they've ruined Superman or Batman's characters. Um, I don't believe that's true. Very, very smart script if you realize how it all ties together. Okay. Um, Again, follow me. I'm going to start my new channel here. This is a very long review because this is my first one I've ever done, and I really felt like this movie deserved to be reviewed, and I think my viewpoints are fair. I'm not just biased because I do like DC better. That is just me personally. The characters, villains, everything's just more interesting to me. But I think this movie is very, very misinterpreted, especially by film critics. Obviously, audiences went and saw it, broke records. That didn't deter them. Good for moviegoers. But I think this movie, I think over time, will be more appreciated over time. Just like Blade Runner. My favorite movie of all time was hated by critics. Thought it was the worst movie ever, and now it's held as a sci-fi classic, thriller noir that to me is a beautiful movie experience. If you've never seen Blade Runner, check it out. Not what you're going to expect from Harrison Ford in the early 80s, but that is what you would call, even that movie has a few flaws, but that is a film cinema experience, and that's what this movie is. 2.5 hours of just non-stop plot and not a ton of action. There really isn't, but it's well done. Okay, so subscribe, follow me, leave comments below. I understand that some people aren't going to agree with me at all. That is fair. I understand this is an opinion. This is my review. If you want to leave a comment and say if you disagree with me, feel free. That is fine with me, okay? Again, thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed.